Welcome, John. Thanks so much for coming, and I've heard so much about Trov. Do you want to tell me a little bit about what you guys do?
Sure, absolutely. So Trov is the world's leading on-demand insurance provider. We've revolutionized the way that people protect the things that they care about. What we're probably best known for is our consumer application that allows you to protect any single item that you care about for any length of time you want. You can go on the app, you get a quote, you accept that quote, protection is on. You can toggle it on and off anytime you like. What a lot of people don't know about us, though, is the fact that we are now doing a lot of B2B partnerships with a number of companies, both traditional insurers as well as different kinds of service providers like car sharing providers, for example. And so what we've been able to do is to take that very granular insurance capability that we had down to the second, being able to do protection for different kinds of things. And we're now applying that across a much broader array of insurance offerings, from all digital renters insurance offering to personal car and mobility to transportation fleet insurance and so on. So that's been a really exciting development.
So I guess really what you're doing is you're making insurance available to people that possibly wouldn't be able to afford it or want it for a whole year or whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the trends that we've seen is when we had that ability to toggle insurance on and off, what we found is a lot of people just wanted that feeling that they could control and they could tailor the insurance to give just the protection that they needed. A lot of times our happy customers weren't toggling at all, but just knowing that they could really tailor it to just what they needed was a very powerful thing and put more of the control back in their hands. And that's a kind of a feeling that we try to propagate through a lot of our different offerings. So, for example, with this fleet offering, I'll use Peugeot, the French car company, PSA. They operate a car sharing program in DC. And what we're able to do for them is we can give them protection based on what that car is doing at that time. So if the car is parked, then the risk is much lower. But if the car is being driven, if a renter is driving that car, then we apply a different price. And if it's being driven for maintenance, that's different still. And then we can use the data to help them understand, like, okay, here's the nature of your risk. Here's some things you can do to manage that risk. So that's really something that kind of tailors it to them and helps them understand and have control over the protection.
That's so fabulous, because in this country, really, I think it's shocking what insurance, not so much ordinary insurance, but health insurance particularly, shocking state of affairs where people do feel out of control and oppressed, really. So it's great that you're doing that. I was wondering if you could tell me what you see at the moment is some of the biggest issues that need to be resolved in the insurance sector.
Sure. I mean, I think so we're working with a lot of different insurance companies, and I think some of the challenge they feel or that they're facing is they know they need to innovate more, but it's very hard for them to do that. We operate in a few different countries: Australia, UK, US, and now in Japan. If I focus just on the US for a second, the regulatory environment is just insanely complex. I have a background in FinTech myself, and so I'm no stranger to regulation, and I think regulation is super important for consumers. But just the fact that it's state by state here in the US just makes it very, very difficult to offer innovative products. And I think that has made it harder for insurers to offer things that consumers want, and then as you say, that makes it hard for consumers to find the protection that really fits their needs. So I think that's one of the big challenges, is sort of the regulatory environment making it more difficult for insurers. I think we at least try to come in and help that just by finding ways to be more nimble and to work with that insurer to still innovate and be very customer focused. But I think maybe on the positive side, one of the challenges that I think I'm really excited about is actually around mobility. So if you go around here in San Francisco, pretty much any city in the world now, you're going to see bikes, scooters, certainly lots of cars, but some of those cars are Ubers and Lyfts, or they're short-term rentals or car sharing or whatever. People are getting around in so many different ways now, and that's a really exciting thing. What a lot of the fleet operators don't realize is that insurance costs for starting up a new business can be anywhere from 20 to 48% of their costs, and a lot of them get into this business not realizing how big insurance is going to be for them. And there too, if they launch in one city, that city may have its own regulations that are very different from another city. So it's really exciting to see all this innovation, and it's kind of fun for us because we get a front row seat to all of this crazy stuff that's going on, and we get to kind of help a lot of different flavors of mobility. So I think it's just exciting to see kind of the frothiness and all the innovation going on there, and to get to be a part of that.
And to see the possibilities of where you can add services or products that would help people. That's fantastic. And what's your vision of the future with Insurtech? Where do you think we're going?
I see Insurtech as following a similar path to other parts of FinTech. People debate if they're really the same field or different ones. But if I think about FinTech, if you look at what, I was at PayPal many years ago, what companies like PayPal did, really innovated and drove a kind of a customer-centric thinking into financial services. And, there too, the regulation makes it at least challenging. But now what you see is lots and lots of people do, all their banking on their phone, and there's, banks out there that are only digital and so on. I think Insurtech is just behind on that same trajectory, but I think we are seeing, with all the investment in Insurtech, I think it was over $1 billion for this past quarter, for the third quarter in a row. There's just a ton of innovation going on there, and I expect to see that kind of consumer-centric or customer-centric innovation happening in insurance because consumers are demanding it. They've got it from their banks, they've got it from other parts of their lives. They expect to have that same kind of ease of use, convenience, flexibility, and so on to be able to do everything right from their phone. So I think that's just going to be the consistent trend that we're going to see.
Great for all the Insurtech startups. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. I think it's going to be a very interesting panel.
I think so too. Thank you so much for having me, and excited to have the panel.